Today we're going to be looking at this Cougar DarkBlader X5 RGB. Okay, so let's start off with this side first so we can get rid of the reflections and so forth. So you've got a 4mm tempered glass side. It's connected at the back with two thumb screws. Let's just take the plastic off because I know some of you like this. There we go, and the side panel just comes off with the two thumb screws and then just slides off. Just bear in mind it's only balanced on by a little lip at the bottom, so it could easily slide off and fall. So just make sure you get a good hold of it. So the front of the case is pretty straightforward. It's sort of two-tone, so this area here is black and this is sort of more of a translucent black. It's more of a probably a really dark grey than a black, to be honest. There is a contrast between the two colours. It's translucent, so you should be able to see the RGB lighting behind it, but also you might be able to see a bit of the moulding marks as well there. I can see those without any lighting, so we'll see what that looks like when we've got the RGB all set up. Now you do have mesh on the front. There are 3 panels here. They are quite small in all honesty, so I'm not sure how much airflow we're going to get through there, but we will do some tests to see how much hotter it is with and without the front of the case on, so we can see if the airflow is impeded by the front. Okay, so the top of the case, first of all, you've got a dust filter here what goes all the way across, which, to be honest, I'm not sure why manufacturers really do that. Most of them do, but the idea is heat rises inside the case, and also if you've got a radiator or anything, you're going to be blowing air out that way, which basically means you're trapping the dust inside the machine rather than letting it come out. Now you've got your I/O panel here, so you've got your power button. You've got your reset, that's if you want it to be a reset button or a RGB changer button there. That's automatically or as standard connected up to the RGB controller, so you press that, changes your lighting. You've got obviously your power and load light there as well, 2 USB 3.0 sockets, headphone and microphone, and a USB 3.1 Gen 2 USB Type-C connection as well. The other side panel will slide off like the glass one, 2 thumb screws, and slides off pretty straightforward. Otherwise, on the back you have got room here for another fan or a really small water cooler. You've got your I/O plate goes here for your motherboard. You've also got 7 extensions as well, so put in PCI Express cards and so forth. You can mount vertically if you wish. It will support a dual width vertical connection, and you've also got option on here, well, not an option, but you will need to put a power supply in this area here. So on the bottom of the case you've got a dust filter here. I'm not a fan of these ones. I prefer them where they're on like a slider, so you can just slide them out, because if you actually want to clean these you've got to basically turn your computer upside down to take it out and put it back in again, and if you've got a water cooling setup, especially if it's custom, that could make a little bit of a mess. On top of that you've got 4 feet, which sounds all good. They look nice and big, but in reality they're just balancing on this little bit in the middle which is rubberized, so they're not really taking the full advantage of the full part of the actual feet. It's just like a little bit in the middle. Then on top of that there's some screws over here where you can remove the hard drive caddy, which is underneath the power supply shroud. Windows 11, powerful, productive and profitable for resellers. Windows 11 was built with usability, efficiency and security in mind, reimagining the way a PC should work. Windows 11 has been beautifully simplified with a streamlined UI. It's simple to upgrade. VIP is your destination for genuine Windows 11. Contact your VIP account manager for the latest pricing and bundle deals. Right, let's go on to the air cooling support. So the top of the case can support either 3 120mm fans or 2 140mm. The rear can support only a 120mm, but it does have the option of moving it up and down slightly. On the front you can either fit 3 140mm fans or 3 120mm fans. Bear in mind there are already 3 fans which are ARGB fans already connected on the front. Water cooling wise, So radiator support, on the top you can fit 120, 140, 240, 280 or 360, and exactly the same on the front. So that's a 120, 140, 240, 280, 360 on the front, and potentially a 120 on the back. One thing to bear in mind, if you've got the front and as a 360, you won't be able to do the top as a 360 and vice versa, because there won't be enough room. So you can only use one 360mm radiator at a time, unfortunately. The motherboard types it supports is a mini ITX, a micro ATX, an ATX, a CEB, and even an extended ATX, that's E-ATX. Now you can fit two 3.5-inch hard drives in there. You can also fit two 2.5-inch drives in there, or if you wanted to get rid of the 3.5-inch drives, you can do and replace those with 2.5-inch bays, which means you could fit potentially four 2.5-inch solid state drives in there, which is pretty good. Obviously the case can fit a maximum of 7 fans, so 3 on the front, 3 on the top, 1 on the back. You have got a max graphics card length of 400mm, so that should be pretty good and a lot of room in there for you. You've also got that max CPU cooler height of 170mm as well, and the PSU length, that's your power supply, you can support up to 180mm. Okay, so let's have a look inside the case. So first of all, you've got a nice big cutout here for the back of the CPU, so you can easily mount water coolers or additional coolers if you wanted to the CPU. So that's pretty straightforward. You've got some nice cutouts here for doing your cabling. That's good. They're not rubberized or anything like that, but they are nice and smooth and not sharp, so that's good. You do have 2 cutouts, or should I say 3 cutouts down the bottom here to put your cables through what need to connect to the bottom of your motherboard. Again, that's good. You've got your power supply shroud here, which obviously turns the bottom part into sort of like a chamber where your actual power supply will go in here. The logo should show here as well. If you've got a decent logo on the side, that'll look good. If you've got a bad one, that'll look bad. I've always thought it'd be nice if they had some sort of rubber filler or even plastic thing you could clip over these, so you didn't have to show the power supply if you didn't want to, but again, that's optional. And there's enough room here to be able to slide your water cooler down into there as well, so that's pretty good. One thing to bear in mind is the I/O plate is on the top, as we mentioned, rather than on the front, and normally that means that the cabling all comes through this area here, but with the way they positioned it on the sort of the right hand side of the case, all the cabling goes behind the back tray, so you don't get all the mess coming down here, so it looks nice, clean and tidy. Otherwise you've got 3 fans in there, which isn't much to write home about, to be honest, because you're just looking at the back of the 3 fans, and they are the VK120 fans. Okay, so on the back side of the case, or the reverse side of the motherboard, you've got 2 bays here which you can fit 2 2.5-inch drives with ease. So basically there's 4 little screws there, just undo those, you'll be able to slide it out and then fit your SSD. Pretty straightforward, so that is good. You've also got your hard drive bay here, so you can slide a hard drive in there, as well as actually fasten one to the top of it as well if you wanted to, or you could convert those into fitting 2.5-inch drives instead. Inside the hard drive bay we did get the manual, as well as some cable ties and an I/O plate for the PCI Express, or 2 spare ones there as well, so that's good. But otherwise just a few screws and bits of fitting and stuff like that, so nothing too special there. Now there are cable tie down spots along the front edge there. There's 4 of them there. You've also got cable tie downs around the back side of where the CPU would go, so which is there, as well as down the sides here. You've got tie downs as well, so you can easily tie down your cables. One thing I would have liked to see, because we come across this quite often, is the 4/8-pin CPU cable coming from the power supply is sometimes quite short, and you have to go straight up at an angle, so it would have been nice to have a slight cutout in here, because those cables can be a bit short on a lot of power supplies and make it a little bit of a pain routing it all the way around the edges. Otherwise we've got the cabling, and the RGB controller. So let's go to the RGB controller first. So the RGB controller is here. You do have room to add an additional 3 RGB devices to it, which is good. It's already got 3 connected, which are the 3 front fans. Obviously, if you remove those, then obviously there's more room on there, so that's good. That will be controlled by the reset or RGB button on the top. As you can see, that's where the reset switch cable goes into. If you didn't want to use a controller and you wanted to use that as an actual reset button, just pull it out and plug it into your motherboard instead, and away you go. It works as a reset switch, and it does require a SATA connection to power it, so you can then power obviously that there. You can connect up the controller directly up to the motherboard to a 5-volt ARGB connection as well, if you wish, and that will allow you to change the RGB colouring and lighting via your motherboard software. Now to the cabling, so that's the rest of the cabling, so for example audio and so forth, it's already cable tidied down, which is nice. Let's undo those cable tidies. You can see there's plenty of cables, they are long enough. One thing to note is every single cable here is nice and black all the way through, all the way to the end, including the audio cables, the USB cables and everything. So that is very good, nice and neat, and most from a flat black, which basically means they're nice and flat and easy to route around your machine. Now one thing to note, which I'm surprised they didn't do this, is the 3 front fans all have PWM cables on them. That's the ones what plug into your motherboard, the 4-pin connector. Now they don't come with any type of combiner or splitter cable, so that means you need 3 connections on your motherboard, or you need to go out and buy an aftermarket connection which will combine all 3 fans into one connection. So either you need a decent motherboard which got lots of fan headers, or you need to combine them or have some sort of fan controller. Okay, let's talk about the front panel first of all. First of all, you've got obviously the lighting of the fans, which sort of shines through the front panel. It's sort of transparent-ish, but it's in bright daylight or in standard room light like this, you can barely see the colouring through the front of the case. If it's a dark room, yes, you can see it, but saying that, it does look, I don't know, a little marked or dirty, as if it's dirty within the side. There seems to be little areas where it's it looks sort of like scuffed and scratched on the inside, and it's really hard to say what's causing that. Well, let's take the front off just to have a quick look. So it just pulls from the bottom and open it up. And as you can see inside, it seems to have, like, I don't know if that's grease or tooling marks on the inside. So it looks like it's not totally clean. So probably find if you went and cleaned that first, it might look a little bit better. But you can still see these through the actual plastic, so the mouldings, which looks neither here or there, to be honest with you. It doesn't look brilliant in all honesty though. The only intake is, apart from the little bit at the bottom, is these 3 little holes here, which have got mesh on them, okay? Which is good, because that stops the dirt getting in and so forth. But then they've got a mesh panel on the inside as well. So you sort of double meshing. I think that one's probably a slightly finer, but in all reality, do you really need it that fine when you've got these on there anyway? You'll probably find if you actually took the front mesh off, as in this bit here, you would actually get better RGB lighting shining through the front of the actual case, because if you have a look, it does make it look a lot duller, and then it wouldn't restrict the airflow as much. And that's when we do get to the airflow. We've done tests on this, so we've had the machine with the fans running full, flat out, okay, with the front on. Our CPU was getting up to 79 degrees Celsius, which is quite hot. Bear in mind, it is an i7 12700K, they do get hot, but it was getting to 79 degrees. As soon as you take that front off the case, the temperature drops down to 70 degrees during our burn test, which basically means that having the front on is basically restricting the airflow, which obviously I don't expect you to have the front off, but that generally means they need more mesh or more holes on the front to allow more air into the case. The same result basically on the GPU, or similar-ish. It was about 2 degrees different, so not a huge difference, but obviously if you had a bigger graphics card, for example we're using the 3060, if you're using something like a 3080 or maybe even a 3090, that's going to get a lot hotter and it's going to be a larger difference in the temperature. So if you're building a big machine, bear in mind the airflow on this isn't the best. You probably get away with an i5 and a 3060 graphics card fine, but if you're going to an i7 or an i9, it's going to get a little bit warm in there. Okay, let's go down to the RGB lighting. We've turned a lot of the studio lights off, so we've only got really some colour lights in the background, and as you can see, it's not the brightest front on that diffused front, or however they want to call it. But again, if you get rid of that second bit of mesh, which in all honesty I don't think you need, because it's already got the mesh here in these 3 places where the intakes anyway. It's a bit like wearing 2 condoms, because you're putting 2 basically bits of protection on something what only needs 1. So I don't foresee you really needing that mesh. So otherwise, you can change the RGB lighting if you wish with the RGB button on the top. You just click it and away you go. Obviously if you've got it hooked up to your motherboard, then obviously you can change it through your motherboard software. So there you go. It does look a little bit better, I must admit, from the inside when you're looking sort of forward at the lights. They're a lot more vivid, and they are quite nice lights. Bear in mind the other lights you see on here and the RAM, and obviously up the top here, that's all extras what are being not included in the case. So the only RGB you get in the case are those 3 fans on the front. So in conclusion, well, we've got sort of a mixed bag here. So you've got sort of a nice looking case. It's a little bit different. You've got that diffused front, so it gives you a slight different effect. I'm not sure if it works or not, the diffused. I think it's probably down to preference. The biggest issue though is the airflow. We get this with a lot of cases, is they design it to make it look nice rather than thinking, well, what it actually needs to make the machine cool. Obviously, we don't expect you to put it in a cardboard box or anything with loads of holes in it, but we do want some more airflow. So probably maybe these holes need to be double the size, or probably a few more on the bottom or down this side as well, sort of mirror it. It would actually help quite a bit. But overall, if you can pick this case up for a decent price and you're looking for a low-end or a mid-end machine, then it'll be absolutely fine for what you want. If this case did not push all your buttons, why not click this box up here and it'll take you to some of the other case reviews we've done in the past. Otherwise, if you would like to see more Cougar products, why not click on this box just here, yep, that one right there, and you'll be able to see more of the Cougar products we have reviewed.